Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Celestial Tree. I'm an astrologer and intuitive reader, and today we are going to be chatting about the first full moon of the year. It is of course the full moon happening at 13 degrees of Cancer on January 3rd 2026. Make sure you check your charts and check your charts for planets and placements that are around 13 degrees of cardinal signs. So Cancer, Capricorn, Aries and Libra, because this might be where you feel the effects of the full moon the most. Before I get started, here's a gentle reminder. If you would like a reading from me, you can book with me on my website at celestialhealingrealm.com. And remember to subscribe to my channel for more horoscopes and astrology updates. If you want to know what energy 2026, oh, that was so hard to say. If you want to know what energy 2026 holds for you, individually, you can book a year ahead reading. They are currently discounted on my website. The slots do tend to fill up quite quickly, so just be mindful of that. If you want to know how the energy of 2026 is gonna coincide with the collective, then be sure to check out my astrology of 2026 videos, where we dive into all the key transits for the upcoming year. um yeah so it's our first full moon, our wolf moon of 2026. It is wrapping up a cycle that began around 6 months ago at the new moon in Cancer, on June 25th 2025. So have a look at your diary or even the pictures in your phone to see like what began and what was happening for you around that time, in the summer of 2025. Now, full moons can be quite emotional generally. These emotions are amplified when the full moon happens in its home, the sign of Cancer. So whenever we have a full moon in Cancer, our energy and our focus is typically directed towards the home, towards our family, our domestic duties, and also towards our safety and security as well. Our intuition can feel quite heightened, and we can get quite sentimental and introspective. The heating on, blankets, snacks, warm cup of tea, and comfort shows. That's always what full moons in Cancer make me think of. The full moon in Cancer is always a reminder of how important it is to balance our commitment to home and family and to our personal security, alongside our commitment to work and profession and our public duties. Sometimes it is okay to miss that meeting to relax at home and have a break. It's so important to reassess our relationship with comfort and responsibility, so that we're not continuing, those generational cycles of like burnout, overexertion, and unnecessary pressure. With that being said, let's dive into these horoscopes for each sign, and be sure to listen to both your sun sign and your rising sign as well if you know it. Aries suns and Aries risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your fourth house of home, family, and the past. It is the end of a cycle that started 6 months prior at the new moon in Cancer, near the end of June. So have a look back to see what began for you around that time. You could be finishing up a personal project around this time, especially if it is a project that started in regards to your home or within your home. You could finish up decorating, renovating, or you could be moving house altogether. Um, your family matters might also be illuminated around this time as well. So you might be spending more time with your family, and if you have been working really hard in your professional life, you might feel this overwhelming desire to kind of be at home and be comfortable in your own space. It might be a really good time to spend some time with your family or members of your chosen family. It is kind of, it's the first full moon of the year, so it is a time for wrapping up and closing the cycles and kind of releasing what you don't want to carry with you into the new year. It might be worth writing down some of the things that you want to release and let go of, and it might be quite emotional, but if you write them down, burn them safely, or put them in water. Cancer is a water sign, or even just throwing it away like with intention. This could be a really powerful and symbolic way of starting the year with a fresh energy and putting the old situations and emotions behind you. So do bear that in mind around the time of this full moon. Taurians, Taurus suns and Taurus risings. This full moon in Cancer will fall in your third house of short distance travel, communication, learning and siblings. It does feel like quite a busy full moon for you Taurians. So as difficult as it might be, it's going to be really important that you try to stay flexible around this time. There could be a few errands that you need to run, or some communication in the form of like documents, emails and phone calls that you need to take care of. So try not to get too overwhelmed with it. Prioritize the important stuff and then leave the rest, so you don't get burnt out trying to do too many things at once. There might also be some short trips that you might have to make, which feel a little bit out of the blue and kind of annoying. But try to find some time for yourself as well, so that you can kind of recharge and have some fun after all the errands and activities that you might have to do. This might also be a time where your siblings are illuminated by the moon. You might need to lend them some support or some guidance with something that they're worried about or dealing with. What I will say though is try not to let that add to your plate. If you already have a lot to do, I think it's easy to lend your support when you don't have the capacity, because you are so kind and given, Taurian. So just be mindful of your plate and what you need to get done around the time of this full moon. Gemini suns and my fellow Gemini risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your second house of finances, self-worth and talents. This full moon comes at a time where both Mercury and Mars are right next to the Sun, over in your eighth house of shared resources. So this could be a time where your finances are under the spotlight quite a bit. You might be having a lot more conversations with your partner about your budget and some of your financial goals, and also lessons that you've learned in the previous year. You might be feeling quite optimistic in regards to the year ahead. And it does feel like the closing of a financial chapter for you, Gemini, especially because Jupiter has been making its way through your second house for quite a bit. There might have been lots of like ideas and revelations around how to better monetize your talents and increase your earnings, and like how to save as well. It's a fantastic time for assessing your financial narratives and habits, and also really thinking and talking about how you want your life to look this year financially. What do you need to release in order to progress yourself to a financial state that you can be proud of? It's a really good time for some self-care as well. Overdue, I know. Building a new self-care routine that will increase your self-worth and your self-esteem, and also letting go of some of the financial habits that no longer serve you will be a really good way to work with the energy of this full moon. Cancerians, Cancer suns and Cancer risings. This full moon will happen in your first house of physical body, identity and life path. This is a very interesting full moon for you Cancerians, because it does feel like you are releasing or letting go of parts of your identity, parts of your life path and parts of your personality that no longer serve you, parts of yourself that you don't want to carry into the upcoming year. It's a time of shedding and evolution, almost where like your independence and your autonomy are at the forefront of your mind. You're kind of like, right, what do I want out of the year and what do I need to release in order to bring about what I want? You also have Mercury and Mars over in Capricorn in your seventh house of relationships. So this could be a time where you're having conversations with a partner, either romantic or business, or even a close friend, about some of the things that you have learned about yourself in 2025 and what you want to carry with you and what you want to let go of. You might feel like your priorities are shifting more towards yourself, and that's a good thing, especially because you're always so focused on making sure everybody else is good. So lean into that me energy around the time of this full moon. Leo suns and Leo risings. This full moon will happen in your 12th house of spirituality, solitude and rest, which means it's a very introspective full moon for you Leos. It is a time where you feel like you really want to rest, you really want to spend some time on your own, and you might be feeling quite reflective when it comes to the year that you've had. If you use this time to recharge, then you'll probably benefit from that, especially because there is a full moon in Leo at the beginning of next month, so you will need your energy for that. It is a time of releasing and letting go. It's it is a time for releasing and letting go. You have Mercury and Mars both in your 6th house of work and health, so there might have been a lot of activity and buzz in these areas of your life, but now is kind of the time for you to enter into that sort of sleepy lion mode and take some time away from everything. It's a fantastic time to focus on your mental well-being, through things like therapy, journaling, meditation, or even working with crystals if that's something that you're interested in. Anything that kind of helps you connect to your subconscious will be really, really good for you. So do keep that in mind around the time of this full moon. Virgo suns and Virgo risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your 11th house of friends, groups, and long-term goals for the future. So Virgos, this is a time where your friendships and connections are coming under the spotlight. You might be letting go of a friend or a group that you were part of, potentially having joined it before the new moon in Cancer 6 months ago. You might decide that this friend or this group's energy is not energy that you want to bring with you into the new year. You could also make a friend or join a new group around this time, one that's more aligned with where you're going and the person that you want to be and become and grow into this year. I'm also thinking about this square between Mercury in the same area of your chart and Neptune over in your 7th house. I feel like there could be some conversations had around this time that kind of feel a little bit hazy, a little bit confusing, especially if you're having conversations with your friends and connections. You might be left wondering like, oh, what did they mean by that? Or just feeling a little bit off as a result of those conversations. This is also a time where you might be celebrating having achieved one of your long-term goals or reworking some of your long-term goals and making sure that they're still sort of aligned with you and still aligned with the person that you want to become. This full moon is all about like alignment. So whatever does come up, make sure that you're keeping in mind your needs and alignment and making sure that make sure that you're releasing and letting go of what doesn't align. Libra suns and Libra risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your 10th house of career, status and public reputation. You might be receiving some really good news or career accolades from your job around this time, Librans. There's a strong chance that your job and the nature of your job might be changing. It might not be like a super dramatic redirection, but it is probably something that will be noticeable around the 3rd of January. You might be called to do something at work and kind of show off your talents and abilities, and while that might seem kind of scary and like nerve-wracking, it's important that you lean into that energy and remind yourself how capable you are. This could also be a time where you might be clashing a little bit with people in positions of authorities, so like parents or bosses and managers. This does feel like maybe less of a clash, more of a hiccup, if I'm honest. Mercury in this part of your chart is squaring Neptune over in your sixth house of work and colleagues. So there might be some haziness and confusion when it comes to your communication with your colleagues and with your bosses. That kind of leaves you feeling a little bit weird and a little bit off. So just be mindful. It's a really good time to celebrate your achievements when it comes to all the progress that you have made at work and with your career as a whole. Something does happen around this time that is calling you to kind of step up and show more of your responsible side. So do keep that in mind and do your best to show that side of you around the time of this full moon. Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your ninth house of overseas travel, higher learning and beliefs, and also the law as well. This is a time where you might be thinking really deeply about some of the bigger things in your life. You might have been putting a lot of effort and resources into some of the more mundane parts of life, like running errands, going to work, making sure that your stability is good. But this full moon is kind of calling you to dream a little bit bigger, especially before the year that's ahead of you. Where do you want to travel to? What do you want to learn? What cultures do you want to explore? These are all questions that might come up, and it's kind of better to have them around the beginning of the year so you can kind of think about it quite deeply and formulate a plan that's going to work for you. If you're feeling more adventurous, lean into that energy and kind of use it to your advantage. Get those goals and dreams down on paper and put your faith in them. Actually, speaking of faith, the ninth house also rules over what you believe. So you might be reflecting on your belief system and how your personal beliefs and worldview has changed as a result of the year. You know, how have these changes deepened your understanding of the world around you? Hopefully you guys do get some good answers to some of those questions and you're feeling optimistic about the upcoming year. Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy and psychological transformations. So this might be a time of endings, Sagittarius. You might finish paying something off, like a loan, or letting go or releasing some type of intimate relationship you may have been involved in. This is a time where you might be revisiting conversations with a partner in regards to your joint finances, especially if you share a home together. I'm thinking about Mercury over in this part of your chart squaring Neptune in your 4th house of home. But these conversations might not result in a lot of clarity. They might leave you feeling a little bit confused, like nothing was really resolved, but try not to dwell on that. There will be another opportunity for you to have those discussions and gain some more clarity from them at a later date. This is a time to reassess your financial situation and your security and try to see if there are any adjustments that need to be made in order for you to feel more secure. All of these answers to these questions might not be available straight away, but that doesn't mean they're not worth considering or thinking about. So do keep that in mind around the time of this full moon. Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. This full moon in Cancer will happen in your 7th house of relationships, business partnerships and contracts, also marriage as well. So Capricorns, this might be a time where the balance between your needs and a partner's needs come into focus. This could be a time where you let go of a partnership. It could be business or romantic, or you strengthen an existing partnership through communication and discussions that are largely centered around needs. It is a really good time for negotiating, to be fair, and also finding a harmonious and amicable approach that can work for all parties involved. even if something partnership related does come to a close around this time, this does give you an opportunity to kind of close out that chapter and begin anew. And if a partnership is strengthened, then it gives you a good opportunity to look to the future and formulate some shared goals and ventures that take into account the needs of both ends of the partnership. This is very business-like, I'm sure. Sure you guys will appreciate that. Now, these conversations and discussions might feel a little bit hazy at times, especially if you and a partner are discussing the mundane day-to-day, what it looks like. Thinking about Mercury in this area of your chart, squaring Neptune over in your third house. There might be some kinks to be worked out in order to gain more clarity in those areas, since Neptune tends to make things a little bit hazy. But the time for clarity will come. Just try to focus on the here and now and reach a good solution or find common ground when it comes to your one-to-one relationships around this time. Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings. This full moon in Cancer will fall in your 6th house of day-to-day work, routines and health. So this is a really important full moon for you Aquarians. Your routines and what you want your day-to-day to look like is going to be on your mind. Your diet, your exercise and your health in general will probably be the main concern, and those are really important things to consider ahead of the new year. Lifestyle changes are always a good thing to do when you have a full moon in this area of your chart. There might be a new diet or exercise regime that you want to try. But it's also a good time to recognize all the progress that you've already made with your health and well-being and with your work as well. If you're dissatisfied with your progress, try to look inward and see what needs to be changed, adjusted or adapted in order for you to make that progress that you desire. You might also complete a work project around this time, or you might say goodbye to a colleague of yours, which might feel quite bittersweet. It might be a work project you really enjoyed or a colleague that you really got along with. If you're feeling a little bit emotional during this time, try to channel that energy into something productive, and even if you can't get a clear plan, a clear view on any of the plans that you want to formulate in regards to your 6th house, try to take it slow and focus on what you can do in this moment in time. Pisceans, my fellow Pisces suns and Pisces risings. This full moon in Cancer will fall in your 5th house of romance, dating, pleasure, hobbies and creative expression, and also children as well. So this is a time where you could have an epiphany when it comes to your love life, or someone you're romantically involved with. This could also be a time where you are completing some type of creative project or endeavor that you've been working on for the last 6 months or so. I feel like your love life and your creativity and even your hobbies will be in full focus for you around this full moon. You might be thinking about what endeavors you want to embark on in the new year with regards to those areas, and those are really important things to consider. How do you want to bring more joy and play and pleasure to your life this year? What is it that you find fun, and how can you do more of that this year? Try to give some of these questions some thought, and you might not have all the answers straight away, but it doesn't mean that these things are not worth considering. Your creative self-expression is a really, really important thing, and it can be difficult to prioritize in a world that is set up for productivity and work, and when your value is dependent on how hard you're working. So do try to remember that creative flow is just as important. So that's all for today, guys. Remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more horoscopes and astrology updates. Also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. They're both linked in the description box below, and leave a comment. Let me know if you're looking forward to the first full moon of the year. Happy healing, everyone.